Hello everyone. Today we are from group 11 and our group will be presenting on rubber plantation in Malaysia for the course FST 20203 Principle of Economic. Hello everyone, my name is Jen Bidang and my metric number is F24A1087. Today I want to present introduction. The natural rubber industry is part of Malaysia's traditional agriculture sector. This industry focuses on the production of natural rubber for both domestic use and export markets. It is a labor-intensive sector that relies heavily on manual work, particularly in activities such as tapping and processing. In addition, the natural rubber industry plays an important role in providing employment opportunities for rural communities, contributing to income generation and supporting the livelihoods of many workers in rural areas.
Hello everyone, my name is Francilla. Now I will provide an overview of the Malaysian agricultural sector, focusing specially on natural rubber. Malaysia remains one of the world's leading producers of natural rubbers. In terms of operation, the sector is highly decentralized. While there are large-scale estates, the industry is primarily driven by thousands of smallholders located in rural areas across the country, making it a vital part of our rural landscape. Moving on the labor market situation, the rubber industry is inherently labor intensive, unlike other crops that can be mechanized. Rubber still relies heavily on manual tapping and latex collection. Because of this, the workforce profile show a high dependency on low-skilled works and forging labor. Most workers earn wages that are closely tied to the national legal minimum. What makes the sector particularly vulnerable is that labor accounts for approximately 60% to 70% of total operating expenses. This high cost sensitivity means that any shift in national wage policies has an immediate and significant impact on the sector profitability. Despite these challenges, the rubber sector is essential to the Malaysian economy. It serves as a backbone for our high-performing downstream industry. We are a global leader in the production of medical gloves and tires, and none of that would be possible without a steady supply of raw natural rubber. Beyond industrial output, it remains a critical social safety net, acting as a primary source of income for rural communities and helping to alleviate poverty. In summary, while the rubber sector is a cornerstone of our economy and manufacturing success, its heavy reliance on manual labor makes it one of the most sensitive industries to change in labor and wage regulation. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Kusali Mary and my metric card number is F24A0989. Today I want to explain about economic analysis, rubber plantation sector. Rubber prices in Malaysia are determined by global markets. They change to global demand, the performance of the automobile industry, and factors like weather or speculation. Since local producers cannot control these prices, their own income can be unstable. making long-term planning and investment more difficult. The second is uncertain profit margin. Profit margin in the rubber sector are often unpredictable. While prices fluctuate, production costs, especially labor, remain high. This means profit can fall quickly. If prices drop, as a result, rubber plantation business face high risk and are very sensitive to wage increase or higher input costs. The last one is labor cost. Rubbering farming is a very labor intensive with limited mechanization. Wages make up a large share of total cost. When wages rise, production costs increase, which may reduce the demand for labor if productivity does not keep pace. Economy analysis, rubber plantation sector. Now we are going to key economy. The first is global rubber demand. Global demand, mainly from the automotive and tire industry, directly affect rubber prices in Malaysia. Higher demand increase prices benefiting exported, while lower demand reduce them. Economically, this is represented as an increase in demand, shifting the demand curve to the right. Secondly, exchange rates. Malaysian rubber is traded in US dollar. A weaker ringgit increase export revenue when converted to Malaysia RM, but also raises the cost of imported inputs like fertilizer and machinery. Exchange rate changes therefore impact both profitable and competitiveness. The last but not least is labor availability. Rubber plantation rely heavily on migrant workers. Shortages can occur due to stricter migration policies or competition from other sectors. When labor supply decreases, wages increase, leading to higher production costs. Economically, this is shown as a leftward shift in the labor supply curve. Now, looking at our first graph, we see the natural market equilibrium, the point where demand meets supply. Without intervention, the market settles at a wage of 1,350 with 1,000 workers employed. However, when the government introduced a minimum wage of RM 1,500, it acts as a price floor. Because this floor is set above the equilibrium, it creates a significant shift. On the supply side, higher wages attract more people, increasing supply to 1,200 workers. On the demand side, higher costs force employers to cut back, reducing demand to 800 workers. The result is a labor surplus of 400 workers, which in economic terms represents unemployment. We also see that the total employment level drop from 1,000 to 800 as the cost of labor now exceeds the budget of many employers. Now let's look at how this theoretical model reflects reality through our wage trends from 2021 to 2024. Initially, in 2021 and 2022, the average wage stayed safely above the minimum wage. However, as the minimum wage was hiked to Rm 1500 in 2023, we notice a comparison effect. You see on the chart that the gap between the average and the minimum has narrowed significantly. By 2024, the average wage is Rm 1480, which is actually slightly below the legal minimum for some sectors. This indicates that the minimum wage is now the primary driver of wage growth rather than market productivity alone. Why? Workers earn more per hour. The cost burden on the industry has reached a critical peak. Finally, we must address the consequence of this rising cost on actually employment, specifically within the plantation or estate sector. The data shows a clear downward trend. In 2021, we had 1,000 workers. By 2024, that number dropped to 900, a 10% decrease in the workforce. Why is this happening? As labor becomes more expensive, estates are forced to adapt. This usually leads to two outcomes: downsizing, reducing the total headcount to manage monthly payroll, increase workload, expecting the remaining 900 workers to cover the same land are previously managed by 1,000 workers. In summary, while the minimum wage policy aims to improve worker welfare, the data suggests it creates a trade-off: higher pay for those who remain employed, but a shrinking pool of available jobs as business struggle with rising operation costs.
Hello everyone, the name is Ivan Anastapa and my metric number is F24A1056. And then on this slide, we look at the minimum wage policy. This is the labor market policy introduced by the Malaysian government to set the lowest legal wage workers can receive. It is designed to protect employees, especially those in vulnerable sectors and from being underpaid. And then the policy applies across the economic sectors, including agriculture and plantations. Legally, all employers must comply, and non-compliance is considered an offense under labor laws. In short, this policy ensures a basic income standard for workers and strengthens fairness in employment practices. In the mind map, you can see the three main areas. It is the legal foundation and the policy scope. It is overall proposed that legal foundation shows why it's enforceable. The policy scope explains who it applies to, and the proposed shows why it's important to workers and the economy. Okay, now let's focus on the wage rate and coverage of the policy. Currently, the minimum wage is 1,500 per month. This rate is applied nationwide. So there's no difference between urban or rural areas. This ensures our workers have a baseline income to cover basic living expenses. The policy especially covers the agriculture production sector, including the rubber plantation subsector, plantation estates, rubber tappers, and full-time agriculture workers fall under this policy. And then by applying the same wage protection as industrial service sectors, it helps reduce income inequality between sectors and ensures plantation workers are not left behind. On the mind map, you can see the main branches, wage rate, sectors coverage, and worker coverage showing whose benefit and how the policy is applied. So this slide covers employer and responsibility and the impact of the policy. Employers are required to pay at least the minimum wage of 1,500, regardless of the workers' productivity or size of the plantation. The compliance is mandatory and employers must adjust wages whenever the government revises the policy. They are also subject to inspections and enforcement to ensure workers are protected. For workers, the policies prevents wage exploitation and provides income security. It helps them meet their basic living needs and improve their overall welfare, particularly in rubber plantations. Economically, it promotes of labor practices, supports social equity, and strengthens labor market regulations. On the mind map, the main branches include employees' responsibilities, compliance, worker protection, and the economic role of the policy, which together shows its significance for the sector and the country.
Hi everyone, my name is Ivyana Nawichu and my metric number is F24B0981. For this slide, I'm going to talk about the business impact of minimum wage on rubber plantation. When minimum wage increase, labor cost per hectare also increase. Plantation owners need to spend more money just to pay workers. Daily operating costs go up as well because rubber tapping is done every day. Because of this, profit become smaller, especially when rubber prices are low. Small plantations usually struggle more than big estates. Many smallholders also face cash flow problems since they don't have much saving. To deal with higher costs, some plantations reduce the number of workers. This makes the workload per worker increase. At the same time, there is less money for farm maintenance, replacing old rubber trees, and improving productivity. For this slide, I will explain the challenges related to minimum wage. Minimum wage increases the cost per worker no matter how much they produce. Even when output is low, employers still need to pay the same wage because daily operating expense to rise. It's also difficult to attract and keep workers, especially local workers. Because of that, plantations rely more on foreign workers. On top of that, rubber prices keep changing, so income is not stable. Smallholders are more affected by these challenges because they have less money and fewer options compared to larger companies. Now, for this slide, I will talk about the opportunities. Even though minimum wage brings challenges, it also creates chance to improve. One way is by training workers to increase latex yield per tree. Better skill can help workers be more productive. Plantation can also improve tapping methods and do better planning and scheduling to save time. Using labor-saving practice help reduce the need for too many workers. Simple tools or basic technology can support manual work, and good management can help control costs while maintaining production.
Hello everyone, my name is Jen Pidang and my metric number is F24A1087. Today I want to present conclusion. In conclusion, the natural rubber industry is an important part of Malaysia's traditional agriculture sector. It contributes to the production of natural rubber for both domestic use and export markets. Despite being labor-intensive and heavily dependent on manual work, this industry plays a significant role in providing employment opportunities, especially in rural areas. Therefore, the natural rubber sector remains essential in supporting rural livelihoods and contributing to Malaysia's agriculture economy.